Picture this. You look out your window, and right there, cutting through your city, is this massive concrete wall.
Wow.
It's dividing families, friends, everything.
Yeah.
And it's just this stark symbol of oppression and fear. For
Yeah.
almost 30 years, that was the reality in Berlin during the Cold War.
It's hard for us to even imagine what that must have been like, a city just sliced in two,
Right.
where something as simple as like going to visit your sister who lives just, 20 meters away could get you thrown in prison or worse.
It's almost unimaginable, and yet this was the backdrop for one of the most powerful speeches of the entire 20th century.
Absolutely.
Ronald Reagan's Tear Down This Wall speech in Berlin back in 1987.
Yeah.
And today we're going to dive deep into this pivotal moment
I'm excited.
using excerpts from the History Daily podcast episode, Reagan's Tear Down This Wall speech, to really uncover the story behind those famous words.
You know what I think is so fascinating about this deep dive is that it's not just about a speech, it's about the power of words
Right.
to actually change the course of history. We're going to explore the events, the clash of ideologies, and the people who all played a role in this iconic moment.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1987 and the Cold War is at its peak.
Yep.
Berlin, once this vibrant city, is now a city divided by the Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
And West Berlin is this island of democracy completely surrounded by Soviet-controlled East Germany.
Right. And that Berlin Wall, which went up in 1961, wasn't just a physical barrier.
Of course not.
It represented this huge ideological divide between the East and the West, communism and democracy.
Exactly.
For Berliners, it was this constant reminder of their fractured city, their separated families, their lost freedoms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the man who would ultimately give voice to their desire for freedom, Peter Robinson,
Okay.
a young speechwriter in the Reagan administration who was tasked with crafting the president's Berlin address.
Imagine the pressure on this guy.
I know.
This wasn't just another speech. This was a message to the entire world.
Right.
A chance to articulate America's stance on the Cold War and really, inspire hope for those yearning for freedom.
He must have felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The History Daily podcast highlights how Robinson initially struggled
Oh, I bet.
to find the right tone, the right words to capture just how serious the situation was.
Yeah, he knew that this speech had to be more than just, diplomatic niceties.
For sure.
It had to connect with the people of Berlin, speak to their hopes and fears, their longing for reunification.
So instead of just staying in his office, Robinson decides to go out into the city and talk to everyday Berliners
Some more.
to really try to understand what the wall meant to them personally.
I love that. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Robinson goes to this dinner party hosted by a local couple, the Elts.
Okay.
And there he meets people whose lives have been directly affected by the wall.
Wow.
People who haven't seen loved ones in decades.
Oh, gosh.
And it's during this dinner that Robinson has his aha moment.
I bet.
This one guest, a man who's been separated from his sister for over 20 years because of the wall, shares his sadness and frustration.
Heartbreak.
And then Ingeborg Elt just bursts out. If Gorbachev is serious about reform, he can prove it. He can get rid of this wall.
Wow.
This raw plea for freedom and unity just really struck a chord with Robinson.
Yeah.
He realized this was the core message. This was the emotional truth that he needed to get across in the speech.
Talk about finding inspiration in unexpected places. A single outburst from a Berliner woman becomes the catalyst for one of the most memorable speeches of the 20th century.
It really speaks to the power of personal stories to shape history.
Robinson starts drafting the speech, focusing on that central demand, tear down this wall.
Powerful.
But he had no idea that a whole new battle was about to begin.
No, what?
This wasn't just a speech, it was a challenge to the status quo,
Yeah.
a direct confrontation with the Soviet Union. And as we'll see, not everyone in the Reagan administration was ready for such a bold move.
This is where the political intrigue really kicks in.
It does.
In part 2 of our deep dive, we'll explore the pushback Robinson faced from those who thought the speech was too provocative and too dangerous.
Can't wait. Welcome back. So last time we left Peter Robinson with this incredible message, right?
Yeah.
This call to tear down this wall.
Powerful stuff.
But actually getting those words into the speech,
Right.
that was a whole different battle.
You see the idea of directly challenging Gorbachev
Yeah,
on East German soil, no less.
right.
That really shook up the American political establishment.
Yeah, bad.
It was seen as just way too confrontational, too risky.
So Robinson found himself facing some serious opposition.
He did.
Not from the Soviets,
Nope.
but from his own government.
Wow.
The History Daily podcast goes into detail about how various departments, including the State Department and the National Security Council.
Big players.
They pushed back hard.
Their concerns, were understandable.
Yeah.
The Cold War was this, delicate balance of power.
Right.
And a lot of people were worried that Reagan's words could, escalate tensions.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe even lead to conflict.
They urged Robinson to soften the language.
Yeah, tone it down a bit.
To take out that direct challenge to Gorbachev and go with a more diplomatic approach.
What's so interesting here is this clash between the idealism of this young speechwriter who had seen the human costs of the wall firsthand, and then the pragmatism of these seasoned diplomats worried about, global stability.
It must have been so frustrating for Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
He had found this powerful message, this resonant truth, and now he's being told to water it down, to play it safe.
But to Robinson's credit, he didn't back down.
Good for him.
He truly believed that the people of Berlin deserved to hear this message of hope, this call for freedom.
Yeah.
Even if it meant, upsetting some people in Washington.
He fought hard to keep the tear down this wall line in the speech.
He did.
Arguing that it was that very boldness that would give the speech its impact.
Exactly.
Its historical significance.
And luckily for him, he had a pretty powerful ally on his side, President Reagan himself.
Reagan, known for his strong convictions and his unwavering belief in freedom.
Right.
He immediately got the power of that message.
He understood that this wasn't just about a physical wall.
Of course not.
It was about tearing down the barriers that divide all of us.
Right.
Fear, oppression, the denial of basic human rights.
He saw it as a challenge to the very core of Soviet ideology.
Absolutely.
This declaration that the United States stood firmly on the side of freedom and democracy.
Reagan's support was crucial. It gave Robinson the leverage he needed to overcome all that resistance within the administration.
So against all odds,
amazing.
The tear down this wall line stayed in the speech.
It's pretty remarkable to think about how the tenacity of one young speechwriter, armed with this powerful message and the president's backing, could actually change the course of history.
So the stage is set, June 12, 1987, President Reagan at the Brandenburg Gate.
Wow.
The Berlin Wall looming large behind him.
Yeah.
A speech that would challenge the world order ready to be delivered.
It was a moment filled with tension and anticipation.
Oh, yeah.
A moment that would capture the world's attention and echo throughout history.
And we'll dive into the speech itself and its immediate impact.
We will.
In the final part of our deep dive. All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into Ronald Reagan's Tear Down This Wall speech.
One of the most famous speeches ever.
Absolutely. So we've heard how this powerful message came about, right? And all the political battles it had to go through just to make it to that stage at the Brandenburg Gate.
Yeah, a lot of hurdles to overcome.
And now it's the moment of truth. June 12th, 1987.
The big day.
President Reagan stands there before the Berlin Wall, this symbol of division and oppression.
Yeah.
Ready to address the whole world.
What a moment.
The atmosphere. I mean, you can just imagine the anticipation, the anxiety.
That's an electric.
Millions of people around the world watching.
Yeah.
Eager to hear what the American president would say at this critical point in the Cold War.
So Reagan starts off by acknowledging the historical weight of Berlin, this city that had endured so much, yet remained this beacon of hope for those longing for freedom.
Yeah.
He speaks directly to the people of West Berlin, praising their courage and resilience.
And then after kind of weaving together themes of freedom, democracy, human rights, he delivers the lines that would, echo throughout history.
Here it comes.
General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Chills.
Those words delivered with such conviction.
You can hear it in the recordings.
Sent shockwaves around the globe.
It was such a bold move.
It was.
This direct challenge to the Soviet leader right there on East German soil.
Yeah, a lot of people in the West even thought it was too provocative, that it could backfire and, make things worse.
Right, escalate the tension.
But Reagan understood the power of his words.
He did.
He was speaking not only to Gorbachev,
right,
but to those millions trapped behind the Iron Curtain.
Offering them hope.
Yeah, a message of solidarity.
And it resonated.
It did.
Big time. The speech was broadcast all across Eastern Europe.
Wow.
And it quickly became a rallying cry for those seeking freedom. People started to believe that change was actually possible.
Yeah.
That wall could actually come down.
The impact was almost immediate.
It was dissident movements in places like Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia.
Right.
They gained so much momentum.
Emboldened by Reagan's words.
Yes, and fueled by this growing sense that the Soviet grip on Eastern Europe was weakening.
The tear down this wall speech became this symbol of the West's commitment to freedom and democracy.
It really did. It put Gorbachev in a tough spot.
He did.
You know, he could ignore those growing calls for change and risk more unrest.
Yeah.
Or he could embrace reform and risk undermining the entire Soviet system.
And as we know, Gorbachev ultimately chose the path of reform.
He did, ushering in those periods of glasnost and perestroika,
right,
openness and restructuring.
With the goal of, revitalizing the Soviet Union.
Now, it's hard to say for sure whether Reagan's speech directly caused the Berlin Wall to fall.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no doubt that it played a huge role in shaping what happened next.
It shifted the momentum.
Yes, it did.
Gave courage to those who wanted change.
Absolutely.
And really signaled that the beginning of the end for the Cold War was near.
And less than 2 years later, November 9th, 1989,
wow,
the Berlin Wall comes crumbling down.
Incredible. Those images we all know.
Yeah, people chipping away at the wall, celebrating their newfound freedom, just incredible.
The fall of the Berlin Wall marked a pivotal moment in history.
Yes, a victory for freedom and democracy, and it all stemmed from a speech.
A speech that dared to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
And offer a vision of a brighter future.
So what can we take away from this amazing story? Well, for me, it's a powerful reminder that words have power.
Absolutely.
They can inspire, they can challenge, and they can truly change the world.
And it also teaches us about the importance of courage and conviction. Peter Robinson's, determination to keep that message in the speech.
Yeah.
And Reagan's unwavering belief in his power.
Right.
Made a world of difference.
And it also shows us that even seemingly impossible barriers can be overcome. I mean, the Berlin Wall seemed like it would stand forever.
Yeah.
This permanent reminder of division.
But thanks to the bravery of those who dared to challenge it and the power of words to inspire hope and change, it finally came tumbling down.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most iconic moments of the 20th century.
Yeah. It's a story that still speaks to us today.
It does.
Reminding us to stand up for what we believe in.
Absolutely.
And the power of words to shape our world.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have many more fascinating explorations waiting for you.